Welcome back to the Practical Shaman podcast, where we talk about all things shamanic, which in the worldview that I hold is about our community, about sustainability, about healing. So it opens up the door for a broad range of topics. Today, I have a good friend and a wise woman, Kathleen McGinley, who is a loving mother, grandmother, and wife who has spent her life helping people become better versions of themselves. A high school teacher in Pennsylvania for 34 years, she has taught many of her students how to utilize skills mentioned in Soul Lost, Soul Restored to elevate themselves to successful, meaningful lives. In 2005, Kathleen started her own business, Phoenix Adventurous and Wellness, with a mission to empower and teach individuals the skills to navigate the trials and tribulations of today's world. After moving to Delaware in 2015, she continued her vision with her new business, Heart Rock Healing, employing initiatives and attempts to unite the world. Welcome.
Thank you, Renee.
You have like a wonderful background in terms of, and what I love about you is you're accessible. You make this world of spirituality accessible to people because you meet them where they're at, and that might be as grandmothers, as mothers, as individuals. And I think, does that have anything to do with your background in teaching and meeting children where they were at in order to raise them up? Do you think that has something to do with how you approach the world?
It may, yeah, that's a good point, Renee, because when I look back at all those years of teaching, and primarily swimming was my specialty, so not only high school students for 34 years, but I taught in the summers at a camp from ages 3 up through to high school. So I had like the whole gamut. And then, of course, when I went into my business with Phoenix Adventures, I was focusing on women's empowerment based on my own trials and tribulations, what I had experienced. And then I integrated my wisdom and my knowledge from the past. And so, yeah, I think it's like every age level I've been working with, for most of my life. So it's a good point.
We all do that. It's like, if you look at the world in retrospect from, I see now why I was a chef, why I worked in country clubs, why I did all of those things. It really comes together to make a unified whole. And so tell us how that came together for you for Heart Rock Healing and some of your signature programs like Hugs for Harmony. Hugs for Harmony.
Hugs for Harmony. Yeah, that's my signature program. And basically, yeah, I've incorporated a lot of my knowledge from the past from wellness, because I taught health and phys ed. So, I did a lot of wellness programs for the kids and created a charter program for the high school kids, which was based on Native American teachings, which was awesome. So I've incorporated that. I became certified as a ropes course facilitator. So I've done team building, which is a lot about relationships and communication and deepening relationships with others. And my own personal struggles in relationships, actually in my marriage, I ended up in a divorce in the early 90s, followed by an unhealthy relationship addiction, and which sent me to Codependence Anonymous, CODA, 12-step program. It was the first time I actually really started looking within. Before it was always about out there, looking at, everything happening to me, the victim, and trying to get people's approval and recognition and all of that. And so CODA really helped me switch it over and become more conscious of who I am for the first time and getting in touch with my feelings. So I kind of look at, that program along with the background in wellness. And when I finally broke my addiction, through surrendering to the universe. And Coda, the 12-step, got me in touch with a higher power concept of God, which I really never had a loving concept of God. But so I've learned there are essential components for transformation. And so the Hugs program covers all of those components. The H, for example, is all about healing. And so I always start with self-awareness, having women look at physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual aspects of wellness. And so there is a lot of introspection and self-care that takes place, trying to shift everybody's focus to themselves. And then from there, the U is universal oneness, which is all about connecting with the universe, recognizing we are all one. You know, the world is our mirror, connecting with something greater. You know, people, whether they say God or Allah or creator, universe, nature, it doesn't matter. What I love about the Native American teachings is that they call it great mystery. They say, you can call it what you want, but it's source, okay? So, so we get into that. And of course, you know, you and I are on the same page, Renee, with nature and recognizing we are part of nature. Nature's a part of us. And we can tap into it at any time for guidance, you know, navigate our lives. And so a lot of my program then is helping people read signs out in nature, you know, understanding that the animals and the birds and the insects and the reptiles and the winds and everything is helping us navigate our lives. We just have to be conscious of what's taking place around us. And so that part of the program really helps women remove the rust, you know, all of those limiting beliefs that we've had, all of those core issues that we've become aware of. You know, we engage in different tools and do some releasing. And once we do that, your hidden gifts start to appear. And that's what the G is, to recognizing those gifts now that we've removed the rust. And then the S is service. You know, what was our mess that can now become our message using the gifts that we have? So that's the Hugs program. And I ran it last year here in Lewis, person and group. It was a year-long program, so there are 4 parts, and very successful. It was great. And now I am in the process of creating an online digital program to go with my new transformation TV program that'll be launching next month. So
how cool is that? So
yeah,
I love that, removing the rust.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing that yesterday with the hummingbird feeder, you know, removing the rust. It's just such a good visual. You can see it. And many people started back in the 12-step programs. There, you know, the 12 steps really is a great spiritual outline, if you would. It's not like an intended anything else, but a really good outline for how to live more spiritually, as are so many of the other spiritual programs. So what is this? Tell us about this transformational TV that you're making.
Yeah, it's interesting how this all unfolded. When I finished my Hugs for Harmony year-long program at the end of May, I said, you know what, it was a great program, but summer is going to be me time. And I was going to kind of put it, I put it out to the universe, like, okay, so self-care, I want to get back into taking care of myself more, because I had a stress fracture in my foot in the spring. So I was totally sedentary. So I had to like exercise and take care of myself. And I said, you know, as far as the business, the universe, I'm not sure what direction to go, you know, kind of just give me some direction. I'm ready to stretch myself. And I got an email from Patrick Doddle from this Transformation TV program, who was looking for hidden teachers. They found my website and he said, you know, if you're interested in being in a movie that is similar, that, you know, like a documentary, kind of like The Secret, with different hidden teachers and whatnot, he said, you know, sign up for an interview, and I'm interviewing people. So I thought, you know, what the heck, that's stretching myself, regardless of whether or not I make this movie. So I had a 45-minute interview with him, and at the end he said, you'd be a great fit. You know, you want to come on board? And I'm like, okay. So with that comes this transformation TV program. So I've been in an intense training now where, you know, we're learning all the technology stuff with podcasts and creating these videos that will be online, transformation.tv, with the different hidden teachers. So I'm in the process of creating it. Mine is called Step into Harmony. And so that's kind of based on really connecting with a deeper relationship with yourself, with others, with nature, with the universe, kind of what I was talking about. And I will have some guests as well. I'll be interviewing some guests. Renee, you'll be one of them at one point once I get this out. Yay. But yeah, that's the program, and we'll see where it goes. I think the movie, we're not going to start filming until 2019 at one point, and he said either the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020 will come out. I'm not sure if it's entitled Hero's Journey or something along those lines, but yeah, that's exciting. So from thinking I wasn't going to be doing anything this summer, now it's like, you know, things are happening, and it's I'm welcoming it, because it is stretching me. I think, you know, that me and technology aren't always like on par, but it's been good. It's been good. So I'm excited.
Well, you've been really methodical in your approach to, you know, your learning and your integration. And one thing I always honor about you is that you set a goal and then you strive for it. Tell us that you wrote a book. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your book. Oops.
Okay. Soul Lost, Soul Restored, A Sacred Journey Back to Self is the name of my book. And when I moved to Delaware, it'll be 3 years in December, not knowing I was transitioning my business, because you knew me as Phoenix Adventurous and Wellness back in Pennsylvania. And then when I came down here, I was in that once again space. I don't know what I want to do, you know? And I'm like, I had started writing this book actually a few years ago, and I'm like, you know what, this is probably what I need to do. Let's look back, review my life, where I've been, where I am now. And so it's this roadmap of my own transformation, pretty much showing you how these essential components that I mentioned are in there, you know, connecting with self, connecting with others, connecting with the universe. And at the end of some of those chapters, I actually have activities. So it is a little bit of a workbook, you know, getting people to look inside and ask those important questions. But so that's my book. So it was interesting, you know, Renee, when we look back at our lives and you see where we were and where we are now, you know, it's pretty exciting. And I don't know about you, but I know it makes me realize like how far we've come, and that we women don't often do this, but we need to pat ourselves on the back, you know. We've really accomplished a lot, and women don't tend to do that. So
I realized that just for myself last week when I got home from teaching at Omega and this whole East Coast whirlwind tour, because, you know, having a day job that you know, provides a lot of security and a lot of adventure and actually a lot of wisdom for what I'm doing, because for some reason a lot of clients are showing up addicted or having, I mean, there's a lot of suffering going on in the world right now, and somehow the day job keeps me connected to that. So, but it also limits the time. So when I got back from this whirlwind tour, you know, generally my approach is always to, okay, what's next? And for once, the first time in my life, I stood there and said, wow, you just did this. I mean, no matter what, and I'm writing a blog article about, moving from resistance to resilience, that it was like the first time I wrote again when I stopped and just said, wow, look what you've accomplished. Because trust me, after spending, 5 years writing and another year editing with back and forth with a publisher, I didn't feel like writing. And luckily I'd created enough content on my blog that I could now borrow it again and repurpose it, which was really useful for this whole year because there was no more. So we can run out if we keep pushing. So I love that you really practice what you preach about, taking a time off, although what foot was the stress fracture in?
Oh, down in Delaware, I was a phys ed teacher and I never even heard of pickleball. So you come to Delaware and it's a big sport down here,
Here too.
What's that?
In Palm Springs, Palm Desert. They're converting all our tennis courts to pickleball courts.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, I think in Indian Wells, they're having the national tournament there this year. But anyway, so I get down here and I get addicted to this pickleball. But I didn't realize it. I'm very competitive, and it was a lot of impact, and all of a sudden my foot swelled. It was black and blue underneath, and I went to the foot doctor and they're like, yeah, you got a stress fracture. So I was in a boot for like 2.5 months, which was really, made me do nothing. So just kind of like a blob sitting around, but the universe, I guess, needed me to do that. And it's all good. It was
left
tough.
Foot or right foot?
My left foot.
That's kind of interesting. The left side is the receiving part of the body. So sometimes we get excited about things that aren't really ours to do. Like if you're too obsessed about pickleball, how are you going to, work on developing, this hugs program or something like that? Or either that you're probably gathering all those pickleball players to be your next group of, they're showing up on Saturday morning for the hugs transformational process. I mean, really, seriously, that's what is so awesome about how you work. You really meet people on the pickleball court or wherever else. And, we had this idea that spiritual people were these people who, sat on the top of the mountain or went to Peru with us. In fact, Kathleen was on the trip where I started practicing wind work. I didn't even really know at the time where I was going, but I had everyone on top of the wind temple spreading their arms doing a wind bath before I even identified it as such.
That was so cool.
Yeah. So
you still have that picture, that photo of that?
I do. Cool. I should probably put it up on
I
should probably put it with the website for doing that. So is there anything looking back in your life that is that you or me?
What's that?
I'm hearing, it must be time that they're doing the mowing or something.
Oh.
You can control all the internal sounds, but it's really hard when you have like a really good mic to control the external, what's going on out in the world. So looking back at your life, is there anything that you change, anything that you would do differently, anything you would offer up for some people, like, staying too long or not staying long enough? Or is there anything that, offer some wisdom for that?
Oh boy. I had a lot, there's been so many life lessons, and I have no regrets about anything. But I think that what's so important, and that's why I incorporate it, whether it's in a retreat or in the hugs program or whatever I do, is to have that tribe, to have that support system, because there's no way that I could have gotten to where I am today unless I had met up with like-minded people who could share their stories. Because I was one of those people who, because of my upbringing, stuffed all my feelings and opinions. I wasn't really allowed to express them as a child, and lived in a lot of fear. So it was really hard for me. It took a lot of courage for me to be in a group like CODA, to start verbalizing and start saying what I felt and talking about myself for the first time. And so I think these programs that I've created allow women to do that, to have a voice, and to see that, to create respect amongst women, because sometimes we can be really hard on each other, women with women. So so that's kind of, I think it's just a matter of finding the right tribe. Find the people who are going to lift you up is really important. And it took me, until I was like 40, Renee, to find that tribe. So if I can give any message out there is if you're feeling different or alone or misfit, there's other people who are feeling just the same. So it's a matter of reaching out and finding those people and, sharing and being vulnerable. It's okay. It's okay to be who you are. So that's my biggest lesson, probably.
It's funny, the other day I was at the National Gay and Lesbian Journalists Association, because I do a Finding Freedom conference for LGBTQ addiction treatments professionals. And one of the things that I said to them was that the reason that I was even at this this NLG Journalism Association at all, because I was pitching my book, and was that I had come out at 58, doing this conference for the addiction treatment. That's why I said there's so many gifts here still, that doing this conference made me realize that I thought there was a tribe, that the gays were a tribe and that lesbians were a tribe and that I just didn't belong to this tribe. So this idea of tribes is kind of an interesting concept. But one of the things that I learned from some of the younger people in this group of addiction professionals is that there really isn't a tribe, and there's no one way or another to be anything in this world. And this year's topic is on relationships, and all these topics of non-consensual monogamies and non-binaries and pansexuals and all of these things that when we were approaching our lives 20, 30, 40 years ago weren't options. And so I guess that we get to be way showers for people because we got to see our own limitations or what the roadblocks were in our own lives. And I know for you, that you lived in a lot of different kind of constraints in your own mind. So who do you find benefits most from your coaching services? I mean, who do you reach out to?
Mostly women. I guess they would describe themselves, and then mostly professional women who would describe themselves as overwhelmed, maybe anxious, feeling disconnect. The word disconnect comes up a lot. Just kind of on autopilot, seeking a deeper meaning of life. And that was my story and my book. I started out by saying how I taught all day, and then I coached, and I give swimming lessons at night. And the one night I was, I have 2 kids at home and a husband, and I'm driving to my lessons, and it just hit me like, is this all there is to life? Like, just in that one moment, I remember where I was on Springhouse Road, and it just, I kind of put it out to the universe, like, is this all there is? And then all of a sudden the universe started like, yeah, look at this, so I started becoming more conscious, and my life transformed totally. But, and it's not always easy. I mean, you and I have experienced what I'd call shaman's depths. It's hard. You go through it. You think you're going to die sometimes or lose total control. But when you have that trust in the universe and you feel protected and supported, you get through it, and so, yeah, so that's important. It's those women who have that disconnect, I remember being on autopilot. It was just like, just keep going, just keep going, like the Energizer Bunny. But once you start really becoming conscious and asking yourself those deeper questions, like, why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, the universe will start showing you, but it's all good. It's all good.
It may not feel like when you're standing in a windstorm that it's all good, but trust me, it really is good, because we heal through resistance, and resistance brings up those places in us that need healing. And that's what the wind work is all about, is how to work with those windy days and those storms in your life in order to really move forward with, like a sailor, tacking across the ocean with ease.
Yeah.
So you offer sacred card path readings and coaching and your workshops. And how can people find you? Where would they look? And
okay, my website is KathleenMcGinley.net, McGinley. Okay, Kathleen. So yeah, people can go on there. I'm on Facebook, Kathleen McGinley Heart Rock Healing. You can find me on Facebook as well. And then my services are listed, individual coaching. I'll have those occasional workshops. And I think I'd like to get back into those retreats like I used to run. I mean, I ran one down here in New Jersey last year. But when we met, Renee, I did Phoenix Adventurous and Wellness, which was primarily running retreats. I ran several to Hawaii. And you and I met at Crystal Fantasy. You had a booth there, and we started talking, and you said, oh, I think I want to run a retreat in Peru. And, so we just talked about that. And then the next thing, I get an invitation to come on your Peru retreat. And at that point, like, I didn't think I'd be going, I don't know. I think I told you the story that, money was a little tight and things were going on, and you messaged me, like, I don't know, was it only like a month before perhaps? And I said, okay, let's talk tomorrow. Let me just put it out to the universe. And that night I had a board meeting at Unity Spiritual Center, and I'm on the board and I'm sitting there and we're doing a check-in. So it comes to me and I don't know, I was saying, this has happened, mentioned nothing about Peru, what have you. The woman next to me does the check-in, and she starts talking how she was sick, but now she's better. And then she goes, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I was in Peru recently, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So if any of you are thinking about going to Peru, you have to go. And I just sat there going, you got to be kidding me. You didn't just say that. So the next day we talk, I'm like, Renee, I'm coming to Peru. And that's how awesome. The universe works. So that was awesome.
That was my last trip to Peru. I need to start traveling some more again. And I just don't know. It seems like there's just not enough time to do everything that, my heart desires and the places that I want to go and things. So hopefully I better be careful what I wish for publicly. So I'm visualizing that there's going to be some more trips coming up in 2019 and retreats. I actually found a retreat center that I'm really looking forward to, really maybe even pulling some people together to do a retreat there. It's got wind, and it's got blues, and it's got zip lining, and it has, I have this idea of this retreat where people actually, you do the zip lining first so people get face to face with their own fears right up front. So since you only have a weekend or so, you can get them there quick. Mm-hmm. And then you can unravel it and then do some team building so that you build the clan by the end of the time. And I'm going to plan one of those for next year for sure.
There you go. That's cool. Yeah. I was just at a retreat. I wanted to take care of myself, and I got an invitation this summer to an exclusive retreat in Finland at Superski Island. A woman bought the island and this past summer and started running retreats there for women around the world to connect. And it was more of a wellness related, good food and power yoga, an hour and a half, Renee, of power yoga every morning at 8:00, which was killing me. I know, right? But, it was beautiful. Like, the environment was beautiful with the trees and the Baltic Sea, and, we're kayaking and doing all sorts of things. But what I got out of it the most was meeting these women. There were only 6 of us, plus staff, who met up from around the world, India and England and Bermuda and, different U.S. towns. And we're going to be forever friends, lifelong friends. And so that's what happens in a retreat. And that's, just kind of after experiencing that a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, you know what, that's why I ran retreats. You can't help but transform and make new friends. So that's where I'm at with that. It really motivated me to run some again.
We'll give everyone your website as we close down here, and we'll be sure to. Kathleen will be part of our Winter Solstice IM Symposium this year, which is going to run from the 20th, the eve of the Winter Solstice through New Year's. So we're really looking forward to having her share some of her wisdom and as a teaching. Awesome.
Okay, so my website again, KathleenMcGinley.net. So I'll spell it KathleenMcGinley.net. So
Great.
Thank you, Renee, for having me. It's awesome to see you. We're 3,000 miles apart. I hardly ever get to see you, but
a virtual hug.
Yeah.
Virtual hug, everyone. Check out our hugs program. It's like a hug that I could give. So
awesome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. And everyone, please subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see you next week. They get released on Monday, and we look forward to sharing with you again soon.
All right. Take care.